everybody. Welcome to Dead Money with Dan Arfin. Like and subscribe to this sacred channel. Recording for you now from the sacred studio. Haven't played much the last couple of weeks, but I got a few things to talk about. But first, I guess I'll start with the World Series of Poker Main Event Tournament. Wow. 22-year-old babyface Lucas Jumalon is the champion. And what a final hand it was in the way he knocked out that other guy, Larry Sakalaka, whatever, not going to work here anymore. I can remember a main event where Greg Raymer knocked out David Williams, getting called all in on the river when Raymer had him beat. I feel like it happened at least one other time between that World Series and this one, maybe at least one other time, but I can't think of when it happened. Anyway. Wow, what a ridiculous hand to see conclude the tournament. I mean, what an amazing feeling for Jumalon, right? He goes all in on the river, and if he gets called, he essentially gets another $4 million. Like, he essentially bet $4 million and got called there. And by third fucking pair. I mean, when you see Laurie make this play, it's like, you start asking yourself, was he doing stuff like this the whole tournament? Was he making these absolute hero maniac fucking go for the freaking drama type calls, folds, bluffs, whatever? Was he doing that the whole tournament, or did the moment get a little big for him? Or did he get a little too big for the moment? You know, it reminds me of when analytics first started taking over baseball and these fucking assholes started telling us that, like, there's no such thing as clutch play, and you know, it's like, why would you think that matters? What do you think, players are trying harder in those situations? No, I don't think players are trying harder in big game situations. I just think the pressure is mounting. They're human. They're aware of the situation. And sometimes people fuck up in those spots because the pressure gets to them. And sometimes people seem to perform even better in those spots. This is what they've been waiting for. This is what gets them going more than anything, it seems. And every player is just different, no matter what game or sport. But this is just utterly ridiculous. And it's funny because he calls the flop when he's way behind, has a terrible hand. Not way behind, but he's well behind. Terrible hand, just terrible, everything terrible. Then he turns a pair and calls a 2x bet on the turn. I really would have loved to have seen what would have happened if the river had been nothing. What if it was just like a 7, which I think meant nothing? What if it was a 7, no spade? He checks again. What is Jumalon going to do then? Is he still going to shove? Because if he does, I mean, if he's getting called when there's 4 spades out there, you can bet he's getting called when there's only 3. And I watched Doug Polk's video, and he's saying that he should have just folded the turn. And look, I mean, I'm not going to question Doug Polk. When the guy 2X's you on that turn, I mean, he shouldn't even be getting to this turn, obviously. Jumalon limps Queen 5 off on the button. Laurie checks Jack 3 in the big blind. Jack 3 of diamonds. Ace King 4. 2 spades, no diamonds, and he just check calls a min bet. I mean, yeah, I know there's a good chance the guy has nothing, but it's as Doug is saying, and this isn't fucking rocket science here. It's like, dude, you don't have to fight to the death in a pot like this. I mean, do you really think the guy is so much better than you that you think you got to try and make some sort of crazy soul read now? I mean, look, you want to give people credit in a way for, like, not being afraid to take a really huge chance. Okay, but doing stupid things is still stupid. That doesn't make what he did any less stupid. I mean, we're on the outside looking in here. Yeah, it's easy for us to say, but just from a poker standpoint, what the fuck is the guy thinking? So, I don't know. I just think the moment got too big for him. I mean, I barely even watched, but just knowing that this is how the guy got knocked out at the end. And that was after, this is the same guy who put that funny little trap on Greg Miller. I think he limped the small blind with kings, and Miller checks the big blind with 10-4, and I think the flop came ace high, check, check. Jack on the turn, bet and a call. River's another ace. Larry shoves and gets called by, like, bottom pair or fourth pair or something. It doesn't matter. I mean, that was a nifty little play. To limp kings in the small blind there, I mean, yeah, we don't need any analysis on telling us why you're supposed to raise with that hand. No one has to explain that. But look, you got to be tricky sometimes. And There's a difference between laying a trap there, limping in with kings, and doing this whole check call nonsense with Jack 3. Now, the funny thing is, let's say he had been right. Everybody would have started saying he was cheating, like doing some Jack 4 offsuit shit. That would have been hilarious. But when he calls the turn, I mean, he gets this river. It's like, you think the guy, even if he was 2x bluffing the turn, you still think the guy didn't at least have a spade? He's just going nuclear with anything and everything at that point? I mean, okay. So another main event tournament in the books. They did something different this year. They only stalled the players for a few weeks. I couldn't stand it when they did that November 9 shit. October 9, and I think one year, waiting all these months. You're going to have them go home for months and then come back and play the final table? I mean, come on. That's ridiculous. And the year I cashed in 2012, I think that may have been only the first or second year they did that. I don't remember. But whatever it was, God, I mean, that would have been a nice problem to have. Have to wait 4 months to play the fucking final table. Anyway, so moving on to some of my own hands, some of the things that did happen since I haven't been out there much. I'm still losing for the most part. I get into this one game on a Friday night, and it was good for a while. It was very good. I actually left just because mentally I haven't really been in it, even though I've been trying to be in it. A game breaks, and this red comes over, and it's this Asian guy who I've seen before. I haven't seen lately, but I've seen before in streaks. He's kind of tall, he's kind of big, he's kind of young. He always wears these big dark sunglasses. He has like this fluffy, messy hair. You know, he's just sort of maybe a typical-ish, unattractive looking poker player, we'll say. And that's with me not even really being able to tell which men are attractive and which men aren't. I generally have no fucking idea. Sometimes I hear women talk about, oh my God, he's so hot. I'm like, oh, really? Him? I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know. But this guy, I can tell, fuck this guy, okay? I don't want to look at him. He's a nit. He's boring. It just brings nothing to the table. Except his $1,500, which is not going in without the nuts. Anyway, like I said, he's very quiet, but when he gets up to the table, he's like, hiya! He sits down, and then over the next hour, he would just keep doing that at random. Like intermittently, like just hiya, and he wasn't saying anything else. Those were the only words he was speaking. And after a little while, this was starting to get really annoying. Then someone asked, like, has he said anything else? And I said, I think he said that 32 out of the 35 words he's spoken. And people are starting to give him some shit about it, but he's just kind of ignoring it. And I was just trying to figure out what is the angle all of a sudden with this guy? Is he trying to be annoying? Like, what? Is he trying to be funny? Like, what does he think is happening right now? Is this what he wants? Or is he perceiving this to be something totally different than what it is? I mean, I asked him at one point, is there anything else that you would care to share with us? And of course he's winning, you know. He's on one of these little nit runs where they win every pot they play. And then we have this fish on my left who is giving a lot of action. He's friendly, but he has no common sense. He's constantly talking about like the hand he had or other hands people can have, like while hands are going on. Till finally he says, he's like, is it bad if I talk about that? And we're all just like looking at him like, yes. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. He's like, I just have like really, really bad ADHD. It's not personal. It's like, it doesn't matter if you have ADHD or not in a situation like this. You just have to fucking have a little common sense and just stop once you're told, which he was. I mean, it felt like he was about to be told a couple of different times, hey, shut up. You can't say stuff like that in the middle of the hand. But it seemed like he stopped just in time where the average person, and I just wasn't in the mood for it tonight, where the average person would say, all right, they'll just let it go. But then he gets into a big argument with a player where he raised with 8-4 offsuit, and this try-hard nit fish, well, I don't know what his deal is, Reg calls on the button. He ended up having ace-9 offsuit, and that ended up being the best hand somehow on the river. 8-4 offsuit bet the river. I think he had a pair. He paired one of those cards, but he was bluffing with it. Got called, and he said, like, I have an 8 or I have a 4. And the button, like, you know, waited for him to show his hand, which he eventually did. And then button shows. And then the two of them just got into this ongoing, everlasting argument about whether or not he should have whether or not the button should have just turned his hand over right away. He's like, I told you I had an 8. He's like, you can just show your hand. You can show your hand. He just wouldn't stop. He would not stop, and nobody was taking his side. I mean, he was friendly to that point. We're trying to like engage him because he's a big fish, but like he is just dead wrong in this situation. You bet the river. He called you. You got to just show her muck. I mean, there's nothing to fucking talk about. He kept saying, because he kept telling him he felt like he shouldn't have to turn over. This was a guy who kept arguing things, and the points he was making, it's like, that's not the point. Those were all his points. Every time he made a point about something, you just wanted to scream at the top of your lungs. That's not the fucking point. So finally, the guy who won the pot takes a small break, and then he asks the table, he's like, am I wrong? Am I wrong? I was like, yes, you are. And now everybody's like saying, yes, you're wrong once he's asked. And now he's backing down a little bit because nobody said anything for him before, but now everybody's telling him that, like, you're wrong. And of course, when the guy comes back, now he makes buddy nice with him. I mean, they had to get a floor over at one point. He came over and told them to stop. I mean, they were bickering back and forth a lot. And I was just watching. I've been a little better lately at keeping my mouth shut. I think I've just been less interested in getting involved. It's a lot of energy to waste on these fucking people, but sometimes I just can't help myself. But look, the point of therapy is to get better. So, I can still come in here and scream about it, but it doesn't mean I myself have to get involved with any of these little verbal altercations or what have you. But yeah, this fucking guy was just relentless with how, like, just immature for a poker game he was, at least, and how, like, he was just thoroughly inept. He was some type of Middle Eastern. I forget where he said he was from. It was a place that hardly anyone comes from. So then he raises to 15, and there's a couple of calls, and I have pocket eights in the big blind, and I 3-bet to 115. A really big 3-bet. He's been opening extremely wide, and the other two players to call are fish, and it's like one of these spots where if I take it here, that's good, that's fine. If I get called by in one of these spots, I don't really want to deal with this, but like it is versus fish. I'm probably against a pretty weak range. I expect them not to be able to play that well post flop, so it's not the worst thing in the world. And I do get a caller, the guy closing the action called. Now the guy just lost a big pot, but it still seemed like he was like kind of trying to play somewhat tight. So when he calls a 115, I don't expect him to be particularly light. I mean, maybe just fairly light. And he's clearly overvaluing if he's going to play it this way. So the flop comes 7-6-3. Okay. I don't know if that's good or bad. I decide to check. Just seemed like he was, I don't know. He looked like he was in a mood to bet, so I'll check and just see what he does. He bets 225 into like 260, I guess. He only had about 800 total. I just put it in. He snaps. The turn is a 6. The river is a 7, so the board has double paired 7s and 6s. This is not particularly good. Turn my hand over, and he's got 6-4 offsuit. So he called another 100 pre with 6-4 offsuit with under 200 big blinds. Flops a pair and a gutter, gets check shoved on, snap calls with it, and gets there. All right, he wins. But then the ensuing orbit, like 15 minutes later, I reloaded to 1500. He's got about that, maybe a little less, at least when this hand starts. I got aces. I raised to 20. There's a call. He 3-bets to 85 in the big blind. He hadn't done much 3-betting. I 4-bet to, I don't know, not very big, to like 210. He 5-bet to 750. I shove, snap. All right, flop comes ace 10 deuce. Okay, perhaps I have a shot this time. Turn is a king. Then my neighbor says before the river's being dealt, he's like, I put him on pocket queens. River's a jack. So now there's 4 to Broadway, and now this other guy starts turning over his hand. But he had pocket kings. Turn to set after I flop a set, and he breaks the river. So it's just never easy, right? I mean, you flop a set of aces in an all-in pot pre-flop. You flop a set, and you still got your balls in your throat by the end. So whatever. Life could be worse. I doubled up. Or no, I stacked him. All the money I lost him in that bad beat, that pot was, close to $1,500. That's what I remember. So yeah, he probably wasn't 800 deep. He wow. Yeah, so that felt good. It's always a very nice, rewarding relief when you win a huge pot, either moments after or shortly after losing a huge pot, especially when it's from the guy you just lost to and who took a bad beat from on top of it. I mean, in this spot, I'm not saying I blame him for getting $1,500 in with kings pre here. I've said before numerous times, it's gotten to a point where I think that's actually kind of a punt, but he doesn't know me really. He doesn't know if I'm on you would never expect a fish to ever even think about folding kings in that spot. I'm just saying, really, the point of the matter is like I was still playing well and would not have put my whole stack in there with anything except aces when he's freaking 5-betting me to 750. So I was still on point. There was one other tricky spot I was in. This girl who I haven't played with that much for a while, but used to play 2-5 with her a fair amount. She's a reg. She plays fine. She has sun run me like it's just unbelievable. I mean, if she's bluffing me in any of these spots, well, fuck me. But it's just time after time after time after time. This woman who doesn't really make a lot of moves without a big hand is just 3-betting here, 3-betting turns, 3-betting rivers, just one after another. We played a day once. She called out of position 4 times in one day where I 3-bet her. She check raised the flop 4 times. I folded all 4 times, and she showed a set all 4 times. So now she opens in the hijack to 30. There's a straddle on. I 3-bet to 140, I think, with pocket 4s in the small blind. This, I think I should have just ignored and just fold this hand. She probably is going to defend maybe a little too often. I mean, she's not going to play horribly post-flop, but just being in position and opening from the hijack, she's going to have a lot of playable hands. So she calls, and the flop comes... Oh, no, I had pocket 5s, not pocket 4s. The flop comes 9-4-6 with 2 diamonds, and I have a diamond, and I bet 145, I think, and she makes it 525. What else is new? I mean, she's clearly going to call off if I shove, and look, the only way I can shove is if I'm very sure that this is a flip, and I don't know if she's just going to commit herself with queens here. I don't know if she does that. If she has that hand in her range, then I'm really fried, but it's not a hand I ever expect to be able to continue with. It's just like, God, what the fuck is she? Because she's just repping a huge hand or a huge draw. And if you actually want to believe that she doesn't have it, if you want to make a hero shove and try and win a 50-50, then go for it. And it's also interesting that if she does have me crushed here, I actually have a fair amount of equity because it's 4-5, because it's 4-6-9, 2 diamonds. I have a 5s with a diamond. Against a set, I have 17% instead of, 9. I essentially have a hand that's slightly better than a gut shot. When it's beat, that is. But I hardly ever go for it in these spots, so I fold, and she shows the 4 diamonds, which is interesting. So we know that she had either a set of 4s, which there's 3 combos of, or ace-4 diamonds with the pair and nut flush draw, and there's 1 combo of. So we know that going by combinatrix, she's more likely to have the set than the flush draw, but why is she showing the 4? And she's also when she showed the 4 diamonds, and it's just, I don't know. I mean, I think about how long it took her to call pre. Was she thinking about set mining for a while with 4s, or was she thinking about 4-betting with ace-4? I mean, look, we know my equity here is bad. We know I get to this spot with hands much better than 5s, but it was just kind of one of those go for it or not type spots, regardless of how big your pair is. If I had queens, for instance, then, of course, my equity is going to be better if, say, she has only the nut flush draw with, ace-jack of diamonds, for instance, whereas pocket 5s wouldn't. But you know what I mean here. It's just a spot where if you believe her, you fold, and if you don't believe her, you jam. So only she knows. So I got buried pretty hard in that game, but then I got out of it and ended up winning nice. Not that nice. I think I won 650-ish. Which I was thrilled about. I mean, I was only there about 3.5 hours, and I was buried 1,500, so it came roaring back, mostly because of that aces versus kings hand. Then I played a week later. I played 2-5 at the win again for 4 hours. I lost 1,500. I mean, it was just getting hacked all fucking session. It was just death by 1,000 cuts. It's just one of those types of days that are just so aggravating. It feels like every time you play a pot, you lose. You don't even know how you got stuck this much. But I also am just sort of forcing myself to be out there right now. I mean, there's not a whole lot of desire right now. It just comes and goes. And just, this is how you're going to feel when you try and make yourself play. Losing is going to aggravate you that much more. So I don't know. It's really hot every day right now. And I just not feeling a lot of poker energy. I'd rather just sit around and do nothing and wait for it to come back. I am semi-retired after all. Anyway, there are 2 memorable hands from this most recent session. A fish limps in under the gun, and a reg-looking player who I've never seen before. I mean, I'm still kind of new to this game. I think I had table changed. He raised 20 under the gun 1. I 3-bet him next action with pocket 8s, even though I have a fish limping under the gun. I still wanted to do it. I still want to be 3-betting. There were a lot more regs in this game, so I just went with 3-betting. And the reg called the 70 pretty fast. So we're heads up. I'm in position. There's about 150 in the pot. And I think the flop was queen 6-4 or 2 diamonds. And he check called like 75 or 80. I think I bet 85. He just, beats me to the pot. And I'm getting a little nervous. I mean, I'm not sure if I want to barrel off here or not. I mean, these queen high flops get me a little confused sometimes. Anyway, turn is a 9. Now it's a 2-tone board. And he checks. And I hate giving up here, but I just kind of just check. Yeah, I fucking just check back. I think maybe I'll do something creative on the river. I don't know, but I just didn't want to go barrel this time. Something was giving me a not so good feeling. So queen 6-4 9, 2 diamonds, 2 spades. Check on the turn. River is the ace of diamonds, so the front door flush gets there, and it's an ace. And he checks. Got to go for it here, and I don't have to go that huge. So I go like 275 into like 300 or 310, and he calls pretty fast with pocket 9s turn to set. So, oh well, that's too bad. I mean, had I bet the turn, he probably just puts it in my face. I mean, when I get this river, it's just an easy card for me to bet. Oh yeah, he actually didn't call the river that fast, which I thought was like, I mean, he couldn't have been thinking about raising the river, but he was like thinking about it. I mean, but it felt like a big nit roll. It's like, you're not folding that hands, but anyway, so I thought that this reg, seemed like someone who's like probably not that bad, but then never mind. No, he gets into a 3-bet pot with this other European player who was new. The reg who just beat me with the set of 9s, he 3-bets out of position in the big blinds. The Euro had open cutoff. The flop was like 7-6-4. The reg C-bets the flop. The Euro raises to something. The big blind 3-bets the flop. Snap calls off the 4-bet shove, and it comes running queens. And he turns over aces, and they're good. So we don't know what this European player had. I mean, the flop bet was like 60, then Euro raised to 140. He got 3-bet to 300. He jammed like 800 and, got snap called. I mean, I don't think he's 4-bet shoving less than 7-6 here, or less than 2 pair. So running queens counterfeits all the 2 pairs. So that seemed very plausible to me, but we didn't see his hand. So the Euro rebuys, and now he opens the 15 under the gun. I got aces. I 3-bet to 50, and he calls, and he's pretty shallow at this point. He's below 100 bigs. So the first thing I tell myself is, oh, great. I'll be able to just get it in on like every run out. Like I don't have to worry about anything. Flop comes king, queen, jack. Rainbow. He checks, I check back. Turns an 8. Now he bets 60 into 100, and I swear I already wanted to fold here. And there's 2 hearts now. I swear I already wanted to fold here. I just thought that when I check back this flop, he's going to expect me to have a lot of like hands like aces, ace king, ace queen. I mean, I guess I could have like ace jack, ace jack and ace queen are not ecstatic to be facing this turn bet. And I just thought he's just going to end up jamming a lot of rivers, and it's just one of these typical spots where the Euro nits just always have it. But he did just get stacked in another pot. We don't know if it was a bad beat or not, but I told myself, look, you can't fold now. You can't fold now. You have too much equity against too many rivers. There's too much of a lot of different things working in your favor here, so just call. The river is an ace. Now any 10 makes a straight, and now he jams. He jams 307 it was into 220, and I got top set here. I mean, and I just didn't think he would get to this river with a lot of TX in his range. I mean, I didn't think jack 10, queen 10, king 10 would be betting this turn card. Therefore, he can't have a straight with those hands on this river because I didn't think they would be betting the turn. Now, he could have ace 10, which I have a lot of blockers to since I have pocket fucking aces. And then I told myself, if this fucking guy turns over 10-9 at the river, like I'm just going to fucking shoot myself because I wanted to fold the turn. So I call. Right before I call, he says, I'll show you. But I call. He's like, I told you I'd show you for free. So now he's, rubbing it in as he turns over 10-7 of hearts. So he flops open-ender, turns a flush draw, and rivers Broadway, which gives me top set. I still think I got a call here probably. I mean, he can have a set of 8s. He could have a set of jacks even. I mean, he probably would have just tried to get that hand in pre, seeing as he put in $50 pre-flop out of position with 10-7 of hearts, opening that under the gun. He was only a little over 80 big blinds deep when the hand started. I mean, the guy was just in all-out spew mode at this point. So I was kind of mad at myself for that one. I mean, it's like if I folded turn, God, he's just folding this hand to one fucking bet and all he has is that. So obviously you got to call the turn. Now, if the river was, say, a 3, let's say he missed, he probably would have shoved. He probably would have shoved to try to get me to fold ace, queen, ace, jack. And, I don't know what I would have done if I was put in that spot. I mean, I wasn't leaning towards snap, so, I don't really know. I mean, I might have talked myself into calling for a number of reasons. I mean, I've been feeling like I'm playing more like a station lately anyway, so, but yeah. Those were the two main hands that went wrong, losing 1,500 in the 4 hours in the second session. I mean, everything else was just like you lose between 40 and $100 for one reason or another reason. You win a small pot here and there, and you're just getting stuck more and more and more and more. So I took some time off, but then I wanted to go to the Aria, which, as you may know, if you listen to this show enough, is usually a house of horrors for me, but I was playing 1-3 this time. I haven't played 1-3 there in a million ages. I mean, when I do occasionally play like an hour or two of 1-3, it's at the Wynn or at Resorts World before it shut down the poker room. But I thought, fuck it, I'll just go play. Just want to get a little trigger time in. So, of course, I was getting myself hacked over there, too. I was like, it's this fucking room. This fucking room. It just never stops with this fucking room. I'm down over 500. The key hand that led me to getting stuck was this nerdy-looking white guy with glasses and an ugly beard and a stupid hat, pale skin, too tall. He overlimps under the gun, and he calls when I have king, queen suited. The first limper folded, and he limp called. And the flop was like queen, jack, 9. He check called. Turn was nothing. There was a flush draw on the flop, too. Turn, I pick up a flush draw. Now there's 2 flush draws. He check called like 75. I probably bet 75 into like 90 or something like that. And the river is a 3. So queen, jack, 9, 5, 3. All the flushes miss. And he checks the river dark, by the way. And I thought that was an interesting decision to make, because you would think that means he's probably not drawing at this point to a flush. And probably not even drawing to a straight. I mean, if he had like queen 10 or jack 10, queen jack 9, and he's check calling a couple streets, you'd think maybe he'd want to get a chance to bet his straight if he hits it, but he's checking dark, so he's obviously he's not worried about that. Doesn't mean he doesn't have a pair and a straight draw. It just means he's willing to check a straight on the river, potentially, if that's the hand he has. So, maybe it's a little too thin. I bet 55. I bet like a quarter pot. 55 into like 230 or something like that. He calls with queen jack, top 2 pair. Had the jack of hearts as well. I mean, I had a ton of outs, but thought I had the best hand and had a ton of outs, but missed. And then no one was saying hardly anything in this game. I mean, but then he says after he wins the pot, he's like, max value. Max value. And you know something? If I was sitting next to him or like 2 seats away, I probably would have said something to him. But like he was sitting in the seat C2. I was in like seat 6 and we're 8-handed. So like he was pretty much as far away from me as he could be. And I just didn't feel like shouting across the table in my cowboy hat, like talking shit to this fucking guy who's patting himself on the back for limp calling queen jack offsuit under the gun out of position, getting the perfect of all perfect runouts to let him get 3 streets. And now he's giving himself a pat on the back like, oh, all my study has paid off. But like I said, I've been biting my tongue more a little lately. So I'm buried in this game, or it feels like I'm buried. And then I start to put a little run together. I make some hands against people who are just dumping every hand. This one guy was like not trolling me, but just saying that he was just making comments along the ways that he thought I was playing really, really tight, because I did go card dead for about an hour and a half. This 1-3 game was over 4 hours. And yeah, I was card dead for a lot of it and played well through that. I mean, I was stuck, but not spewing, but stuck and just folding trash. Then started to mount a comeback, then started to lose again, and then that started to get me really annoyed, as I've talked about here, when you're starting to come back and then start losing again, and now you're like back to being stuck close to the amount you were before. For me, that is tilting. So we get a guy who limps the hijack with like $100, maybe a little over $100. I raised to 17 on the button with 5 deuce of hearts, because now I'm pissed. And I would never do this And it's, least of all against a guy who's limping in with so little money. But that's what I did. And the big blind called. The big blind was a lot deeper. And then the limper calls. And I flopped pretty good. Queen 6-3, one heart. So I got a gut shot and a backdoor flush draw. And then the big blind donks 40. Short stack folds. I wasn't in the mood to try and, even if I would definitely look strong here and get credit. I mean, if raising flop and say jamming turn, I was a little nervous about trying to make someone fold top pair here at 1-3, especially when he's leading that big on the flop. I mean, he can have ace queen, or he might just, or it could be one of these spots where they get really sticky with king queen or something. So anyway, I call. Turn is another 3. It's 2 hearts now. Now he bets 100. And you know what? I could probably jam here too, but I just played it, conservative again and just try to get there. And I call. And lo and behold, I get there. A backdoor flush. 8 of hearts. He checks. So the pot has 330. And I probably should have bet at least like 200, at least 220, 2/3. I bet rather small. I bet 145. He called. But he called fast. And look, I mean, basically every time I win a pot with the best hand, unless I stack the guy, I always think I miss value. And then I get really even more upset with myself if I don't get a call at all. So basically, I'm just never satisfied unless I stack the guy. And so everything is always easy in hindsight. I mean, but just thinking if I could redo that spot, what would I bet on the river? I mean, probably more than half pot, at least 180, 200. I mean, because the backdoor flush, to some players, that's going to look so imposing. To others, they're not going to think it's imposing at all. And others are going to try and think of a way that it would be imposing, but won't be able to come up with a reason and may just pay off. I mean, I have played really very little 1-3. So I would need just a long sample of experience to really get a feel for what the pool tends to do in a lot of spots. I mean, I know that the 1-3 pool just over adjusts. The small stakes players make drastic over adjustments. Like, oh, this guy bluffs. Because they think the game is just very simple. It's like, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll just call every time. And that's their strategy. Or if they see a guy hasn't bluffed or hasn't been playing a hand for an hour and a half, like the guy who was sitting next to me was telling me, then they I fold anything to you. Like, I'll fold everything. Like, it's because you played like 40, because out of 40 hands, you weren't in there that much. Now they know you inside and out. I mean, I know the 1-3 pool tends to think like that, but when you're not in that kind of spot where image is guiding their decision, I don't know. I mean, I guess you just proceed with whatever tends to work. When I'm betting for value, I tend to be afraid to go too big because they just seem to give me a lot of respect when I go big. And I know this table probably thinks I'm tight because I've been fairly inactive for a while. So I'm just afraid to bet too much and get nothing. But of course, when the guy snap calls, you always think you probably would have been able to get away with more. So I ended up getting unstuck in the game. But then on the very last hand, there's an under the gun limp. I raised to, I think, 15 with king jack offsuit. The guy who I just beat with 5 deuce of hearts, he calls. The limper calls. Flop comes, I think, queen 9-4. We all checked. Turn was another queen. We all checked. And the river was like a 7 or a 5. Yeah. Queen 9-4, queen 5. And there's been no betting until now where the first player checks. And now I just bet 75. I mean, I hadn't used a size like this all day. Nobody's seen me bluff. Nobody's been doing any bluffing. This is close to 2x pot. I mean, I think big enough that, it would get a lot of marginal hands confused and folding. Instead, I get snap called by the player who had called my raise to 15 pre. The other guy folds, and I lose to pocket sixes, and then I lift. So he snap called with a pair there. I mean, and I'm not saying that, it's a bad call or he shouldn't do stuff like that in this spot. I mean, I'm just saying the field, at least a 2-5. I mean, if I had bet 150 there into, say, 60, at 2-5, I think pocket sixes is going to be folding pretty often because they're just going to think something is weird, and they just don't want to call light, and they don't like to put big money in unless they have a huge hand. That's just kind of the MO of the whole 2-5 field. So I just took that same thinking and took it into this 1-3 spot. And, look, maybe that hand does fold enough for me to make money here, but it snap called this time. And it's just like, okay. So yeah, that was a little gut punch right at the end of the session. You think you're about to get up like 1 or 2 hands. And look, obviously this wasn't, a dramatic hand or anything, but you know what I mean. In your mind, this money is kind of banked already. Next thing you know, you fuck some of it off. But all right, that'll do for this week. I still don't know when I'm going to go back out, but the weekend is coming, so, maybe I'll get the itch. But either way, I'll think of something to talk about, so we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks.